What's up, everybody? Got some breaking news here for you today on this Friday. So right off the bat here, we have some extremely disappointing fourth quarter GDP numbers. They were expecting much more, and they only got, I believe, 1.4% growth. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think that actually is overstated. We also have inflation being hotter than expected. And of course, the big news of the day is that the Supreme Court just officially struck down Trump's tariffs. So this is a huge, huge deal. It was a 6-3 vote, so it wasn't even that close. You have the majority included Roberts, who's a conservative, Sotomayor, Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Then you also had Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett ruling against Trump. That's a huge deal because, of course, he got both of them on the court, and they still slapped him down for his tariffs. On the dissent, you have Clarence Thomas, who's the worst of the worst, Samuel Alito, who's probably the second worst, and Brett Kavanaugh, who's a frat boy sexual assaulter, and also sucks too. Yeah. So 6-3 is a big deal. And Crystal, I was telling you off air when we first got this news that this is huge because it's basically like a total rebuke of the entire trade war. And the fact that you're doing that means the world could sort of breathe a sigh of relief knowing that, okay, what this madman decides on a whim is actually not necessarily going to stand. And so that actually takes the temperature down quite a bit with, for example, the flight from the dollar, which I've been screaming about, that like I really fear that the world is going to dump the dollar as the world reserve currency. And I feel like this makes it so everybody goes, okay, now we have more time to slowly get away from the dollar because the Supreme Court just injected a certain amount of stability here and also made it so that, Canada, for example, the EU, for example, these are allies who Trump spit in their eye repeatedly with these tariffs. And now it makes it so that he's trying to spit in their eye, but they know the actual negative effects are not going to be there because it was blocked.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge rebuke. It's not unexpected because his use of the tariff authority was so completely insane and unjustifiable that even with this court, it was like, okay. And by the way, I mean, the court is also very friendly to business, and business hated these tariffs too.
True.
So that's part of why it's not a huge surprise. But this fits with the pattern of the way Trump has operated, throughout Trump 2.0, where he declares or creates or imagines or invents some sort of an emergency and then uses that as a justification to claim powers that he does not actually have. This was one of the most extreme examples of that because the power of the purse lies with Congress. So tariff authority is supposed to go through Congress. Now, there are these little individual exceptions for things like national security purposes. But when you're doing things like, going to Brazil and being like, I don't like you prosecuting Bolsonaro, how can you possibly argue that that is some sort of legitimate national security purpose? Now, in this administration, they just believe in the unitary executive. I mean, they believe he should have the powers of the king and he should be able to do whatever he wants whenever he wants. That is their legal theory. But when it got to the Supreme Court, at least in this one instance, they're like, you know what, this is too far for us. An example of what you're talking about is some of the immediate impact in terms of how countries are relating to us and thinking about how to, do business with the United States, how to conduct themselves around the world, et cetera. Trump had threatened Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum's Mexico, with additional tariffs if they allowed their oil to go to Cuba, where Cuba has already paid for this oil. And so this was being used as a coercive threat against Mexico. Now, the Trump administration is going to try some other rationale, some other justification for some level of tariff, regime. We'll have to see what they come up with to justify the next one. We're likely to have a whole new slew of court battles, etc. But the fact that you've had this extraordinary rebuke from a very Trump-friendly Supreme Court of his primary economic policy is obviously very significant.
So Trump says he has a backup plan, to your point. It kind of reminds me of when Biden decided, I know you guys slapped down my student loan debt reduction this way, but I'm going to try it another way. But the difference is Biden, I think, was actually going by the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and the Supreme Court was wrong to strike down his student loan debt reduction. In this case, I think the Supreme Court is right to say you can't just unilaterally declare that every single country is now in the midst of a national emergency and we need to tariff them for stupid reasons, like you pointed out. Yeah. Like, oh, I don't like how you're treating Bolsonaro. But so the Supreme Court stated that refunding billions from Trump's illegal tariff collections, quote, is likely to be a mess, but may be required. So that's sort of a big deal. They're not wrong. It is going to be an absolute mess, but it's going to be an absolute mess because, the regime doing it is just incompetent, stupid, dumb, acting haphazardly, and Lord only knows what's going on with those funds now, but motherfucker, you got to find him.
Yeah.
Because if he can find the $10 billion that he's stealing from taxpayers to give to his Board of Peace, which is a slush fund that he controls, then yeah, you should be able to find this shit too.
Yeah, and I think, I don't remember, it's something like $800 billion that's been collected in tariffs. And so now...
Well, they said 150, 175 billion is what could be returned. That's what they said.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So Trump might be lying when he said, it's 800 billion. That's...
Yeah, but the whole idea is you now have to return this to whoever you collected it from. And actually, that was Kavanaugh's dissent that you were reading from. I mean, his justifications were basically one of them was, well, it's going to be really messy to do this, and they're probably going to try to do a workaround anyway, so we should just side with them. I mean, think about how pathetic that
so
is.
you're allowed to break the law if it's messy to clean it up.
Exactly.
Every murder ever has been messy in human history. I mean, we should allow it.
Try another workaround to accomplish your crime, so we should just, give in to you from the jump. That was effectively his view. Yeah.
So Trump apparently ranted against the decision, according to CNN, and said, quote, "These fucking courts." And he says that he has to do something about the courts. Kind of crazy, especially since we know he's basically rejected at least 34% of the court decisions, and that's as of July. He had not abided by 57 different court orders. I believe that number now is much, much, much higher. Yeah. ICE has arrested 4,400 people totally illegally. Yeah. And basically the lower level courts are hair on fire. They're the ones who are screaming hey, this is fascism and this motherfucker does not abide by the rule of law. So for him to say this, it's no surprise, but he's already not abiding by court decisions, Yeah, he acts I've been playing nice to this point. Motherfucker, no, you haven't. But this is what I'm saying, he's got to be impeached. He's got to be 25th Amendmented. He's got to be fucking arrested. This is crazy to just let this guy keep getting away with all this shit.
And the Supreme Court has actually given him his way
in
almost every instance.
Yes.
This is a very rare exception.
Yep.
But they've used the shadow docket to basically say, well, we're just not going to rule on this, but that means you can keep doing what you want to do.
Exactly.
And so this is because I think it, rubs up against also their loyalty to the business community. This one is the place where they decided to draw the line. But when it comes to mass racial profiling, for example, they're like, go ahead. Yeah, it's probably illegal if we actually ruled on it, but we're just going to let you keep doing it and, sort of give you a green light to go about this absolutely unconstitutional, illegal, abusive immigration system that they have been, deploying.
Yes, and the business community didn't like the tariffs, but also the tariffs are being passed off onto the people.
Oh,
so
of course.
People's prices are skyrocketing
in this case,
too.
The business community is correct.
Yeah, it's bad for everybody.
I'm in favor of there is a theoretical tariff policy that I could be in favor. The one that they did under Biden was sensible. It was actually delivering results in terms of new manufacturing jobs, et cetera, et cetera. This is just insanity, and it was part of his mob boss powers, to your point, about the way that he was throwing his weight around like a bully mob boss around the world. And now you've stripped him of, some of that ability.
Yeah, and you're right. It is mob boss stuff because then you can, I'll make a carve out if you do X, Y, or Z for me. Mm-hmm. So it just gives him the powers of an emperor, which is just horrible. Cato Institute has this piece, Trump's $18 trillion hoax. And they say President Trump touts $18 trillion in tariff-driven investment. But it's fake, made up of vague announcements, routine spending, and Japanese liquid natural gas purchases labeled as investment. Real FDI in 2025 was only $266 billion. The $18 trillion number is hype. This is the Cato Institute. They're a right-wing think tank, a libertarian think tank, and of course, fact checkers have been having a field day with his, 18 trillion, man. Are you fucking kidding me? That's more than half of our GDP, right? And for him to say, oh yeah, that they invested that, totally made up. But now I like that you have even conservatives calling that out. To pivot here now to Epstein stuff, this is kind of a big deal. Brian Krasenstein is saying, breaking, the DOJ deleted this Epstein file showing that they provided Ghislaine Maxwell with notes from 3 FBI interviews of a woman who claimed Trump sexually assaulted her at age 15. Why the hell did they remove this file after releasing it? And why aren't we seeing the actual notes that this file says exists? So you pointed this one out to me earlier. Yeah, it appears like, no surprise here, Ghislaine Maxwell has the goods on him, and she knows where all the bodies are buried, figuratively, but maybe also literally. And that's why Trump has already given her incredible favorable treatment for her to basically like haphazardly try to clear his name. We all know what's going on here, and next would be a potential pardon, but she's already basically at a resort club fed type situation where she has a puppy and she does hot yoga, and she's already been given amazing favorable treatment. So I don't know if he'll actually go a step further. I guess we'll wait and see. But according to this, she really knows some dirt on him, and 15-year-olds involved. The Katie Johnson story was a 13-year-old. You said it yourself that the FBI thought some of these women were legit, that it wasn't hype, it wasn't BS, it wasn't like some campaign type nonsense to try to take him down. And they interviewed them, and they think there's something there.
Yeah, in the initial release of these files, there were a bunch of claims that were made against him from this anonymous tip line. And what people said at the time, oh, well, it's just from the anonymous tip line, so you can't really put a lot of credence into that. And then, people dug in and saw, well, at least one of them, if not more, the FBI thought they were credible enough to do multiple interviews with. And so that's what we're talking about here. I presume that it was provided to Ghislaine Maxwell in the context of her trial as part of the discovery process. I'm presuming that's why she was given access to this. But regardless of the reason, this document indicates that whatever was in those interviews with that, woman who claimed she was abused by Trump when she was 15 years old, whatever was in those interviews, Ghislaine Maxwell knows. We haven't been given access to it, even though we are legally, should have access to that. But that has been blocked from our purview. But Ghislaine Maxwell, she's there with at least, and I'm sure she knows other things about Trump as well. Obviously, knows the whole ball of wax, and that's why she's in this club fed with her puppy.
That's right. NBC News is reporting that Israeli settlers killed a 19-year-old Palestinian American. This will be the first and last time you hear about this, by the way. Nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to do anything about it. And now I believe we're up to about a dozen Americans who Israel has killed that you haven't heard a fucking word about, because we protect them no matter what they do, even to the point where they murder American citizens.
Yeah, how's that for
isn't
your
that great?
America First regime?
America First, my ass cheeks. All right, we also have this about the concentration camp, the ICE concentration camp in Texas. We've had 6 deaths in 6 weeks at the Texas ICE centers. Abuse and poor medical care has long plagued ICE facilities, but under Trump's second administration, they're becoming deadlier. What to know about the conditions and concerns at ICE facilities? And this is a Texas Tribune article that gets into it. They're concentration camps, and we've seen videos of them like protesting outside, and immigration lawyers like hearing them, and they're all dressed in like the same outfit. It's very dystopian, and it's almost too on the nose. And I feel like people are not really grappling with the fact that that's what these things are. They're concentration camps. There's no way around it. And now you're hearing stories of more and more people dying. Perhaps the proper term is death camp, because they clearly don't give a fuck about these people. They're not even giving them the stuff they have a human right to, like their medicine.
Right. Yeah, no, the mass denial of medical care is, it goes way beyond like, oops, accidental. When you have this many people, some bad things are going to happen. And there was one in Texas that was actually ruled a homicide by the local authorities. So because he was effectively like strangled
lynched
to death.
Yeah, hands tied, feet tied.
That's
hanging.
a different one.
Oh, that's a different. Jesus Christ, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
We have this as well. Yesterday, the Trump administration doubled down on its plan to arrest, detain, and interrogate tens of thousands of legally present refugees, people already vetted who've lived here legally for a year or more. Hundreds were arrested in Minnesota under this policy before court blocked it. So yet again, a classic example of them going after legal immigrants.
Yeah.
They are going after legal immigrants, as we all said they would. Those of us who were paying attention, those of us who were following it, when they hold up mass deportation signs at the RNC, that can't just be about undocumented immigrant violent criminals, because there's not that many of those.
Right. Yeah, these are people who are sort of like hand-selected. They're vetted. This isn't like, your typical asylum claim, which people also have a right to claim asylum and go through that process as well. But, you have that group which shows up at the border, makes an asylum claim, and then they have to go through a lengty process. This is a group that's sort of like handpicked and pre-vetted. So very different status in terms of the federal government. So, it's another extraordinary abuse.
By the way, I should point out, we have more big Epstein news coming out tonight. sign up for Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. You can see the full Crystal, Kyle, and Friends episode. It's just me and Crystal. We're going through a whole bunch of news, including Epstein stuff that I did not get to on the regular Secular Talk channel with the Kyle Kulinski show. So definitely sign up for Crystal, Kyle, and Friends to get that. All right, we also have another American killed by a DHS agent shooting through their car's side window after agents surrounded his car. The agent was treated for a knee injury and quickly released. And of course, there's incredible parallels between the lies DHS told about Minneapolis and Chicago shootings. So yet another one. I mean, that woman who they shot at, what was it, 5 times, 7 times?
Martinez,
they crashed into her, shot at her that many times, and
Yeah.
they lied about it every single step of the way. And now they're talking about maybe charges against the agents, right?
For lying under oath, yeah.
I mean, this is where we're at now, where you literally can't trust a word they say.
No.
Like these people, I mean, police departments have a track record of also lying when it suits their purposes. But these guys make the fucking police departments look like Boy Scouts. Every single thing they say is a lie. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, in the Miramar Martinez example, they made up a whole scenario that didn't happen at all. They claimed they were blocked in by multiple cars and like drew a whole picture of what that looked like. Then lo and behold, not only did the body camera footage come out, but there was a surveillance camera that that captured like there are no cars in front of you. What you said, like that didn't happen at all. So yeah, they had originally charged her with, I don't know, endangering the life of an officer, something like that. They had to drop the charges, and now she's filing suit against them. Obviously, we saw the lies about Renee Good. We saw the lies about Alex Preddy. We saw the lies about, remember the guy that they shot, who they said, oh my God, we got attacked by a broom and a shovel. Now they've had to say, oh, well, that didn't happen either, so we're dropping those charges too, and just quietly hoping no one notices. No, they're insane, out of control, and it comes from the top. This is what happens when the president and vice president and DHS secretary and psycho Stephen Miller tell you you have absolute immunity and that they support you and stand by you 100%. This is what happens.
All right, so as you guys know, Trump is currently in the midst of prepping for a massive illegal war against Iran. He already bombed them once illegally, but now he's planning a longer-term attack on Iran. And you have Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna coming up with a War Powers Act, using the War Powers Resolution to try to block Trump from doing this, unless, of course, he can get congressional approval for it. And so they're floating that. I love that they're on top of that. But of course, you have the warmongering freaks are also now getting directly involved. And you have opposition to the Khanna and Massie War Powers Resolution from Josh Gottheimer, a Democratic congressperson, and Mike Lawler, a Republican congressperson, and they released a joint statement here where they basically try to fearmonger and say, oh, Iran says death to America, therefore we get to wage another illegal and offensive war against them and try to do regime change. And it is fucking disgusting, and I'm so sick of these neocon, warmonger, imperialist freaks. We are under a fascist imperialist regime right now, and you have a Democratic congressperson who's saying, not only do I want you to attack Iran, I don't even want you to have to go through Congress in order to get approval for it. I don't even want you to have to abide by the Constitution. And so, call Josh Gottheimer's office and tell him he needs to fucking resign. He needs to resign. This is disgusting. Really? You're a Democratic congressperson and you are green-lighting Trump's another illegal and offensive war from Trump when we just saw him kidnap a world leader and we saw him bomb Iran once already. We saw him bomb Nigeria and Somalia and threaten Panama and Canada and Greenland. You have fucking blood on your hands, Josh Gottheimer, if you're signing off on this psychopath doing what he's doing now.
It's crazy that this is like Wakana and Wamasi, like Wario
Right,
and
yeah.
Waluigi, like Wakana and Wamasi.
That's true.
But I mean, the Democrats have been really
Nowhere. Where's Hakeem Jeffries? Where's Chuck Schumer?
It's like the only people who seem to do anything are like Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna at this. It's crazy. And Ryan has some reporting that the thinking coming from Schumer and many others in the Democratic caucus is basically like they low-key support the policy.
Oh my God.
They don't want to be the ones that have to actually do it.
Oh my God.
And they think that it will be bad for Trump politically. So they want this to happen.
Yeah.
They
so
want
let all
this
these
to happen.
people die.
Yeah.
Let a country
Think
get
of how
put in
cynical
fucking
that
ruins.
is. Yes, exactly.
Oh
Destroy the lives of millions of people, upend and create chaos in an entire region just because you think it's going to like benefit you in the midterms. Oh, and low key, like you actually to support the policy. Schumer claims this is not their thinking, but Ryan has good sources saying no, this is how they're thinking about it. So when you look at the silence, like that doesn't come out of nowhere. That's why they're being so quiet. And by the way, it's not just Jeffries and Schumer or, that these guys are taking an aggressive, like, in favor stance. But you really haven't heard much from much of anybody from the Democratic supposed opposition party on this, on Venezuela. It's been so weak as to be practically non-existent.
It's just it's so disheartening when you see that. Like, these Democrats, real Democrats, they all need to be fucking primaried and kicked the fuck out. They're just not. They're not an opposition party. Yeah. They're not doing opposition. It's fucking disgusting. So we also have this. I'm sure you guys saw this, but last night Trump was out there talking about how there's tremendous interest shown when it comes to aliens, and I'm now directing every department and agency to release all of the alien information that we have. And, everybody's now pointing out the obvious.
Of all time.
Yes. Massey says they've deployed the ultimate weapon of mass distraction. The Epstein files aren't going away, even for aliens. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And by the way, I also think the Iran war has a lot to do with that also. I mean, I think he's being blackmailed into it, and I think he kind of supports it anyway. But I think a lot of that has to do with, he said it about Obama. Obama's going to do a war with Iran because his poll numbers are low. Well, now Trump's poll numbers are low. That shows you how he thinks. He said that so many times during Obama's term. Now he's actually implementing that. So, and Li Fang also points out on the same topic here that the CIA has documents that show when they overthrew the Guatemalan president in 1954, they plotted planting flying saucer stories to distract the media. So I didn't know this. Apparently there's a track record of, like, when you got something you don't want them to look at, you go, oh, aliens. And people go, oh, bro, aliens, bro. And then they lose the plot.
Yeah. Well, and Obama kind of gave him an opening with that, like, Brian Tyler Cohen
I mean, he didn't really. People were taking him out of context. He just totally did not say what they were pretending he said.
Oh, he did say aliens are real. He did say that.
Yeah, but what he meant by that is, like, statistically, aliens are real because there's so many.
After the fact.
No, he said it in the thing too, but people clipped it in a dishonest way.
He didn't say it in the thing.
If you watch the full answer, yes, he does.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. But I think that's why you had to clarify on Twitter.
No, people were being dishonest and clipped it in a clip chimp kind of way. And he was like, okay, that's not actually what I meant. And you know it if you watch the full thing.
Did you see that Trump said that Obama gave up classified information by saying that?
Unbelievable. But then the next day he's like, I'm going to release all the alien stuff. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing you're saying he's giving up.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right. And then we also have this, a New Hampshire poll, Democratic presidential polling among 18 to 34-year-olds. Okay. So young Democratic voters here. And it's AOC is leading by a mile, 42%. Pete Buttigieg is number 2 at 24%.
That one's disturbing.
Harris at 9%, Newsom at 6%. But I mean, you get why it is. We talked about this the other day that we know his politics. We know what he's actually about. So we're more averse to him. But a lot of people who aren't as deep in the weeds of policy as we are, they look at him and they see a fighter. There's the guy because he goes on Fox News and fucking yells at them and defeats them in debates. That's why.
I don't see him doing much of anything.
Well, he did that for like 2 years straight. That's where I think people get it from.
You think they get that? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't really see him stepping up to the plate. He went on Jubilee at all.
He went on Jubilee and took on like fucking 30 Trump supporters or whatever it was. That literally, like, that's the thing that's leading to that, without a doubt.
All right.
With that, because it's young people. What do they probably see more like Jubilee type shit.
It's one thing I am glad to see here though is Newsom only at 6%. So they're
among young people,
they're not buying.
They smell bullshit.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting. Kamala Harris at 9%. Mark Kelly, I don't know whatever.
Okay, for the love of God, put Jon Stewart in there.
Why are you polling Bernie? Like Bernie
I know,
is not running again.
He's
what
not
are you
running.
doing?
Put Jon Stewart in there. Put Ro Khanna in there. There's so many other people who should be put in here.
Yeah,
you know, it's right. Like the people who do these polls are just not. They're not that political. Like they're clearly not. They don't follow it that closely, or else you wouldn't be doing these people.
Either that, or it's very political. Because, like, I mean, the choice to include Bernie is a weird one, but you know that will take away from AOC.
Yeah,
you know, in the overall thing.
So anyway, 42 for AOC, 24 for Buttigieg, and then all the way after that is Harris down at 9%. And then this one, oh my God, Trump is going to be seething over this one. So there was a poll the other day that we covered on the show. Who is a better president? It was Biden by 8 points over Trump. Now we have a new poll that has Biden by 8 points over Trump. But they asked Obama versus Trump, who did a better job as president. You guys ready for this? Trump 37%, Obama 55%. He's going to crash out so hard when he sees this. I bet you his people are hiding it from him. He hasn't said anything yet, which leads me to believe they're hiding this from him, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it reminds me of the poll showing that Kamala Harris would beat him by like 8 points now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I know would
bittersweet.
Make him insane. Because,
and it's also bittersweet for us.
Yeah, because he thinks, you know, he has such contempt for women in general, but her
100%.
in particular. And so, yeah, I'm sure, either his aides don't bring that sort of thing to him. He may not have seen it. He would think it was fake news if he did see it, but that is a wild stat.
See,
a lot of buyer's remorse.
I think deep down now he does I think he kind of knows deep down.
He does. Remember he said that thing to the Republican caucus where he's like, you got to tell me what's going on with the public or something like that.
What's going on in the mind of the public?
Yeah, in the mind of the public. That's right. Because he's seeing, okay, I'm not popular. Republicans are getting killed in every single election. He knows the midterms are going to go horribly for him, which he keeps basically saying. He chalks it up to like, oh, well, the party in power never does well historically. But that's why they're doing all of their aggressive election rigging is because they know that if it's a fair fight, they're going to get their asses kicked. So, yeah, he does know. He does know.
There is literally nothing about Republican policy on its own that's appealing.
Yeah.
Once you actually let them, go ahead, free reign, go ahead. You got the Senate, you got the House, you got the presidency, you got the courts. Go ahead. Do all of the shit that you want to do.
Yeah.
Everybody fucking hates them when they do that. Everybody.
Well, and I think you're right in a point that you made that you guys should watch Crystal Kyle and Friends too here in its full glory. But the Epstein class revelations have really helped people to understand like the class reality of politics and the class war nature of politics. Like, you can't read those files and then be like, yep, I'm right. The problem is the trans people. You can't read them and be like, oh yeah, that's why the problem is all these immigrants. No, that's not the issue. It's these, transnational elite cabal who have total class solidarity with one another, who are out there, in this very self-serving way, who are delighting in war and chaos and destruction and screwing you over for their own money, wealth, power, and just for kicks, just for their own jollies as well. Like, that's what is so clear reading these emails, looking through these files and seeing the way, oh, this is how power actually operates and this is how they think about all of us. So I think that has been, that's been really important as like an intellectual development in terms of how the population has to think about politics.
I'm a political guy, obviously, and I'm a class guy, obviously. And that was even a wake-up call for me, where I was like, excuse me? Like, there's like this whole group of people, billionaires and like various different kinds of elites, and they are raping kids, torturing kids. There's allegations of like fucking cannibalism. They all know it. They're all in on it. They all protect each other. They're all part of this like big fraternity. They have, like Ryan Grimm says, amazing class solidarity to the point where we're jealous when we look at them.
They're sharing inside information to make sure that they always come out on top no matter what happens. They're, looking to create war and chaos because they know it can benefit them. They can profit off of it. They can consolidate more power. Yeah, all of that. All of that is not just like sort of amorphously true. It's literally true.
Correct. Yep.
And that's the part that was a little stunning to me is like, I understood the world to work this way, but in a little bit more of like a squishy,
abstract.
Like this is abstractly like kind of how it goes. No, they're literally emailing each other and calling each other and saying, I'm glad there's a war in Libya because we're going to make lots of bank off of that. Like, that's the way this actually happened.
Love the torture video.
Yeah, love that torture video. And and grooming these girls and using the modeling agencies as a pipeline. And then all of that disgusting criminal abuse is the glue that binds them together. That's what creates the mutually assured destruction. So that, of course, no one's going to blow the whistle on it because they all are aware, they're all implicated in some way, and that's what keeps the circle so tight-knit. That's what binds the class solidarity, ultimately, is the glue of, like, total abuse of people that they see as not really being fully human.
And they all whitewash their reputations on Joe Rogan, so thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, man.
the Jeffrey Epstein experience.
Yeah, exactly. And the final thing I wanted to bring up here, you'll get a kick out of this, Crystal. The Daily Beast says, the conservative machine behind Project 2025 hired the adult film star to work on education policy. And the title is, MAGA architects hire gay porn star for education role.
You can't make this shit up.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know. Because usually they're closet cases. That's their thing usually, is like, they're the most, I'm offended. I hate gay stuff. What do you, and then they're like, like that's what they do. That's what they do. But this one apparently is open.
Did you see that the labor secretary's husband has been banned from the Department of Labor building because 2 staffers there accused him of sexual assault?
I did see that.
Yeah.
I did say I forgot to add that, but that's true. Oh my God.
I mean, they're just like, yeah, it's, you think about like the number of the January 6th rioters who, you know, are now thrown back in prison because of like CSAM charges or whatever. Like
a lot of them, bro. A lot of them. Somebody said there's more of them than undocumented immigrants who voted in the past 20 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's literally true. And didn't they find like one example of an undocumented immigrant voter and it was like a 3-time Trump voter or something like that?
I've seen stories like that. As they say, pedocon theory is a theory like gravity is a theory. That's where we're at now.
Exactly. And then the last thing I saw in that regard is that Georgia did an investigation. Their like election board did an investigation. They found that Elon Musk's super PAC broke the law in the state of Georgia, like in a mass coordinated way by sending these pre-filled out ballots to people and not properly indicating that these were not like official government documents. Every accusation is a confession. It's so true. There's
very little actual voter fraud that happens. But there is, to your point, election fraud that happens. And the election fraud is being committed by the right. That's exactly what Trump was doing with his fake elector slate in 2020. That's exactly what January 6th was about, right? Like they were trying to reject the results of a free and fair election and lying about it relentlessly. That's the crime. And it's all projection. It's all psychological projection. I'm guilty of it. I'm going to accuse you of being guilty of it. We have the numbers. Somebody did a detailed report from like the mid-1990s until today. And through all those elections, hundreds of millions of votes, there were 77 that were, not legal votes, undocumented immigrant votes.
Wow.
77. Wow. You're more likely to get struck by lightning than there is to be an undocumented immigrant who votes. And the reason for that is obvious. These people, they're here, they're in the shadows, they're just trying to work and pay the bills and get by. They're not going to fucking put a target on their back and go vote and be like, hey, come find me, come deport me. They're not going to fucking do that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that. That doesn't happen.
Right.
And that's with this whole voter ID thing. The whole point is voter disenfranchisement. They might as well call it the voter disenfranchisement bill. That's the whole purpose of it. Because if they say you got to jump through all these hoops in order to vote, there's going to be some percentage of people who don't jump through all the hoops. Yeah. They don't get the new government ID. They don't get the new passport. The passport could cost fucking $200 or whatever it is,
and
right?
they're shutting down like a bunch of passport offices to make it harder for you to get your passport.
So you need your passport. Now it's harder to get a passport.
Right. It has to be passport or real ID, which we know not everybody has.
Correct.
And is expensive to get in and of itself. I saw that, that Scott Pressler guy who's like his whole thing is like registering Republicans to vote, blah, blah, blah. He was on Fox, I think it was Fox News, and he said that if they don't pass that Voter Disenfranchisement Act, they call it the SAVE Act, he's like, Republicans are going to lose. And I'm just thinking, that's such a confession.
Totally.
Like, the only way we're going to win is if we kick millions of legitimate voters off the rolls. That's the only chance we have. And so that's why we're pushing this thing forward. Like, it's just as brazen as it could possibly be.
And a lot of states already do that. They did this in 2024 with what's called ballot spoiling and ballot purging.
That's right.
They find any reason whatsoever. If one person named, let's say, Jamal Thomas passes away, they'll kick everybody named Jamal Thomas in the state off the voter rolls.
Right.
And then they need to go back and re-register in order to vote.
Right.
Or, you vote, but your middle initial is not in the ballot, or it is on the ballot when it should be on the, like they find any little thing they can to say, oh, this one doesn't count, we're dismissing it. Yep. That's the way Republicans try to cheat to win. That's what they do.
Yeah. And they have a system that they've already deployed. So the red states have already agreed to send in their voter rolls. And they're using this system to try to identify
wrongly purge people,
supposed undocumented immigrants. And I think it works the way you're saying. Like, let's say that your name is like Carlos Torres. Well, there's probably a lot of people with that name.
Just kick everybody named Carlos Torres off.
And so they just kick them all off. And so these local election workers who are actually trying to do their job are getting these lists of like all these voters are, ineligible. One of these clerks went in and saw one of the names and was like, I literally remember this person got their citizenship. This is my colleague's initials on like them, being able to properly register to vote. And so, there were tons of people already who are being kicked off in red states. The blue states are fighting against that, fighting against sending their voter rolls in to the federal government, and the government is suing them over that. But in the red states, they're going along with it. And obviously, there are swing districts in red states. Some of the red states are going to be blue states this time around, if things are even remotely free and fair.
So they're using AI to purge the ballots.
Right.
And there were articles like, oh, AI is like wrongly kicking all these people off the ballots. And I quote tweeted that, and I was like, This is the point. No, it's not an accident.
Right.
They're trying to do this.
Is intentional.
You don't get it. Like, this is the point.
Right.
This is what
the
like,
AI is behaving as
yes,
they want it to.
as they want it to. That's exactly right. So anyway, these people are absolute fucking demons. Thank you guys for listening. As always, like I said, tune into Crystal, Kyle, and Friends tonight. Sign up on Substack if you haven't yet. We got a nice long show with me and Crystal. You'll get some teaser clips that drop. There's a lot of stuff that you won't see. If you want to see all the new Epstein updates, which are juicy and spicy and disturbing, definitely sign up on Substack, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.